Hey everybody, welcome to this Friday weekly market wrap. My name is Gareth Soloway here, Chief Market Strategist at VerifiedInvesting.com. Great to be back in office, in the studio, and ready to crush it with you. All right, so markets sold off today after opening the day higher. Again, a sharp sell-off in the afternoon. Let's go over to the big board and take a look at what is going on. All right, so what do we have here? We have the Dow down 366 points, the NASDAQ down 68 points, the S&P down about 24 points. So again, it's not a massive sell-off. There's no doubt about it. It's not massive, but it's more that we opened higher this morning on the back of Apple earnings as well as the PCE data, the inflation data coming in line with estimates, right? But again, all of those gains getting wiped away and then some as worries about tariffs being implemented this weekend come into focus, all right? It's suspected that there'll be 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico. The question is it an overreaction? Will it be less than that, or will it be greater, or just in line? And markets on Monday should reflect that reality. All right, oil down 75 cents today, continuing to go lower. I continue to remain short a half position on oil. And gold today flat to positive as continuation of kind of a safe haven demand asset is in play. Bitcoin, which is more of a risk asset, falling about 2.7% or $2,800. Again, if you've been paying attention, I have that pivot line, and we've stayed on the right side of that pivot line, which told us the bias was to the downside based on probability, and that is what we're seeing. Heat map, again, is generally red or gray. That means that we're down or mostly flat. A couple standouts, NVIDIA, Apple reversing its gains earlier today. So again, some of the big cap tech are in line. Taking a look at the intraday, this is what I wanted to show you guys. So here's the intraday S&P 500, the spiders chart. We can see we opened higher right here, right? So again, we opened higher on a gap up. This was on the back of Apple trading at $247 to $48. Now, if you were watching my game plan this morning, I said, guys, we're opening on Apple above a key level, but look for selling to take hold. And I said, fade this move. Well, I think we can all agree that if you look at Apple, and we'll go to that chart in a minute, it certainly did fade, is now negative on the day, an over $10 reversal on that stock. But the S&P, here it was, chopping up, kind of sideways into lunch, and then this is where the concern comes in, the big money saying, hey, listen, we don't know what these tariffs are going to be, so let's take positions off the table, and the markets have dumped to the downside. All right, so again, keep an eye on this market into the end of the day as we are just about to close. Now let's flip over to the daily chart of the S&P. This is a big deal here, guys. So I want to show you this, and this is something I went over this morning, but let's go back to the big board and take a look. So check this out. We have a parallel channel that we've been following for a long time. Here's your high pivot. This was your all-time high. Your pierce, but no confirmation, and look at the high today. We pierced that line, and again, it got rejected. That is, again, classic case of a double, now triple top in the market. Major reversal right here. Big red down candle engulfing most of yesterday's entire move from the lows to the highs. Now, again, we could see the markets rallying on Monday if these tariffs don't come out to be as bad as possible. But right now, the markets are very skeptical and nervous heading into this weekend. And again, beautiful little sell-off on that chart there. Now, if we do come down, there's going to be a couple key levels to watch. The big one, though, on the downside will be essentially back down to this area right here, right? So if we look at this zone, you can see that the lows here, here, and here, that's all in an alignment. So right around 576 or 5,760 on the S&P, that's going to be your big level there. On the upside, we know that this area right here continues to be technical resistance. All right, let's keep going here, folks. Let's look at that Apple chart because that's a big deal here. Look at this. So this was that gap above a level. I showed this exact chart this morning. I said, guys, look at this trend line here. And then also look at the Fibonacci, right? If we take the high using our fib tool to the lows here, right? Look at what we pierced, the 618. So I said, guys, it's opening above here, but when you have two lines crossing, price will likely get drawn down. Look at the nasty reversal candle on Apple today from a high of 247 during market hours. Pre-market, it was 248. All the way down to a low today of 233 closing today, and it looks like we're just about 10 seconds from a close right around 236. So a little bounce into the end of the day, but still a nasty reversal day on the charts. Decker today was a nasty seller here as well. Pretty nasty unloading into the end of the day. This looks like a fund unloading more than anything, just the consistent selling. If we look at the 10-minute chart, This selling here, when it's kind of nonstop without a bounce, again, even when the S&P was bouncing a little bit, this screams of a selling off of a fund position where, again, they don't care so much that they're taking a loss. They just want to get out of the position. It could also mean that it could snap back on Monday, something to keep an eye on. So, again, looking at this chart, I want to show you this too. So this was a level. This was the line I was watching today. It did yield a little bit of a technical bounce, but ultimately it went lower. There's a new level to watch right down here, right? So we look at this level right in here. Let me put this line in here, right through there. That's what we're hitting. In addition, look at this. If you take your Fibonacci, your low here to your high, look at what we also pierced, a 50% fib retrace right there. So listen, who knows what happens on Monday, but it wouldn't shock me to see Decker bounce on Monday, a little bit at least, to the upside based on this oversold institutional dumping. Now, again, if that institution is done, this could snap back decently. Again, what's a decent bounce? Closing at 177.38, maybe back to the low 180s, 185 area, something in that respect. Again, down 20.5% on the day. Another chart on watch today was OKLO. This is one of those utility nuclear plays here. Again, doesn't look like it might have put in a topping tail, but this reversal is very interesting when it comes at the highs of charts here, and again, might be a signal that this stock is ready to pull back. Downside, if it does pull back, would be down into this zone here, right in this area. So anywhere between 29.80 down to about 27 right in there, that would be technical support. This is one of my favorite charts on the downside. Take a look. Every time that JP Morgan has attacked the upside of this parallel, it's had a big sell-off here, sell-off here. The odds being is that you can extrapolate that this will have a sell-off here. In fact, one of the things, if we go over to the big board here and we take a look at this, we can see that on this chart, it actually put in a topping tail right here as well. So you have a topping tail at the high end of a parallel channel. To me, the probabilities, and it's all about probabilities, mean that we could be looking at a sell-off to the downside in the coming weeks and months, just like we had right over here. In fact, right there is a topping tail as well. And look at what happened to JP Morgan. All right, so again, potential sell there, then it climbed its way back to the high end, and the idea is you can look for some sort of sell-off off of JP Morgan's upper band of the parallel there. All right, let's jump into Bitcoin here, guys, and we can go over our Bitcoin chart. We can take a look. I think I'll actually go to the big board for this to explain it as well. So if we look at this, right, what do we have? Well, this was our pivot line right here, right? So this was our pivot line right along here, and we talked about that as long as you remain below, even if it pierces, it has to close above to trigger further upside to this 108 to 111,000 level. That's your next big resistance. But again, notice every day it touched the line to even today in the morning, and it's gotten rejected, and price is now starting to sell. That's just what the charts are telling us. It has no apparent, there's no bias, there's no emotion. It's just that was what it was telling me was the probability or favoring of this chart, and so far that is occurring. If it breaks this low right here, this 100,000 level, then you would expect a continuation to the 92,000. Again, if it recovers, gets above this line here, which is at around 107, 106, then you can look for that 108 to $111,000 level. But again, right now, probability still favors the downside on this chart of Bitcoin in the near term. Let's look at a couple other charts here. Gold yesterday making a new all-time high, and today we did see it pull, well, it popped initially, but it is coming back in just a little bit. Looks like we pierced the 2,800 even number level and are pulling back. One thing I will say is gold is getting a little short-term extended, so let's watch and see next week. I do ultimately think we continue up towards the upper end of this parallel around 3,000, but the question is, do we pull back first? And again, remember, charts generally don't go in straight lines. They usually have this type of motion here, and it, again, doesn't mean that's what's going to happen here, but that would be something that would not surprise me to see that little consolidation and then the next leg higher as we continue to watch things. All right, silver, let's flip over to silver here. Silver pulling back just a shade. Again, beautiful move up the last 3 days, but again, hasn't reached resistance yet, getting a small pullback today as, again, we saw worries over tariffs. Now, again, think about this, right? Tariffs why would silver go down on potential for tariffs? The answer is very simple, is that tariffs potentially can slow the economy. Again, it's an added tax, and that's the kicker there. So you tax people more with higher prices, and the economy slows down. That means the industrial side of silver slows down as well, and therefore silver price is going down, at least today. Now listen, if the tariffs don't turn out to be as bad by Monday, maybe silver rips up to that resistance level, which remains at around $32.25. Quickly looking at oil here, let's take a look at U.S. oil, see what we got on that chart there. Oil recovering into the day end. It was down earlier, but recovering to basically be flat. A lot of support in this vicinity. One thing I'll show you here, you also have this line right through this high, this zone right here. There's a lot of support in there. I'm still holding on to half the position, like I said, on the short side of oil. After it came down, we got out about half right over here. But I still want to give that second half a chance to break even lower, since we're kind of playing with the bank's money or the house's money at this point. Quickly going over to natural gas. Natural gas also staging a little bit of a bounce by day's end, but still slightly negative. The parallel channel has broken. Any sort of retrace here, if we look at this, what would this be? If we go back here, this would be a retrace to the scene of the crime, and you would look to sell into that for a move to the downside, with a stop being kept just above, with a confirmation above this line. But ultimately, again, do we know if it'll bounce back to the scene of the crime? We don't know. It could go flat to sideways and then break lower. But ultimately, again, this type of breakdown, it rarely finishes and just continues back up. If it goes back up, it retraces here, or you get a much more, bearish type sideways chop with an eventual move down. But the ultimate bias here would be to the downside still, even if it gets a couple days of a bounce. All right, so listen, we have more earnings next week, more economic news next week, including the jobs report will be out next week, a key component of how the economy is doing. But I think the number one thing we'll be watching for on Monday is what is going on with these tariffs. How much, or what's the level being levied on Canada and Mexico? Is there more rhetoric? Is it worse than expected? Is it better than expected? Sunday night, the futures will open 6 p.m. Eastern time, and I'll be glued to see where things are going. Thank you guys for being members or being supporters of Verified Investing. Amazing new things coming. I can't wait to announce on Monday in terms of new offerings, exciting stuff, big value add. You guys are the best. You support us. We support you. Absolutely. Go have a great weekend. I'll see you on Monday. Take care.
So back to my module. Let's see here. I am now ranked 408 in the world. Absolutely incredible. And not only did I learn, I actually had fun doing it. So moving forward, we'll see how high I can get, but it's been a blast so far, and that was the business mindset. See you guys next time.